Hi guys, welcome to my weekly podcast. Today I'm recording this in the middle of the week. It's all about responsibility, providential responsibility. The thing that I was thinking about, like like some people say that the archangel did not have responsibility, but for my analysis, the, he had responsibility because position determines responsibility. So if you are in the position of a servant, you have certain responsibility to perform to fulfill your purpose. And so did Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were in the position of daughter of a son and daughter of God. So they had fulfilled their responsibility by obeying the word. The word was given by God. Uh, that is to believe in the commandment, to to adhere to the commandment. That was their responsibility. That was Adam and Eve's responsibility to believe, to trust in God and to obey God. That is their responsibility. That is what God gave them the commandment. So the counteract of the argument is saying that God gave Adam and Eve the responsibility, not the archangel. So therefore the archangel is not responsible. Adam and Eve were responsible. Well, in that kind of argument, yeah, Adam and Eve were responsible because God gave the commandment to them. But then, at the same time, the archangel also knew his position. He knew his position because he knew his commandment. He knew God had given this commandment to Adam and Eve. Because when tempted Eve, he said, "Did not God tell you that you shall not eat of the fruit of good and evil?" So it clearly says that the serpent knew. The serpent is archangel. The archangel knew. Archangel Lucifer knew that he knew the commandment that God had given Adam and Eve. So from that point of view, Adam and they had responsibility. And also God punished the serpent. He said, "On the belly you shall go the rest of your lives, and evil elements that you shall eat." So this is a very clear statement that that God punished the archangel as well. So therefore they had responsibility as well, because when the angels are ministering beings, they are servants. They're servants of God. They're servants to serve Adam and Eve. So this is the point that I want to emphasize, that that the responsibility was Adam as well as the archangel. They both had responsibility, so to a certain degree, because position determines responsibility. Because you can say that they were insubordinate to God, so therefore they were punished. Even also the archangel. Archangel also, even though he was not given the commandment, he knew the commandment, and God punished him as well. So they all had responsibility in the process of the fall, because the position determines the responsibility. Because the archangel reversed the position. He became the Lord over Adam and Eve, because they obeyed him, not God, and God became the Lord, became at the bottom. So they reversed the dominion, and they left their positions. So like we say, the four fallen natures is that you you do not see things from God's viewpoint, and then you leave your position and you reverse your dominion and you multiply your sin. So that is the fallen nature that we all have in our lives, of restoration. I mean, you think of us, because we think of things from our point of view. not from God's point of view. And we commit the fall over and over again. So that is why, if you look at the whole providence of God, from Adam to Noah, because once Adam had sinned, God cast him away from the Garden of Eden, and he kept a, a cherubim guarding the way to the tree of life. The cherubim is a angel with a flaming sword that was guarding the way to the tree of life. So you see that has God. So once the fall took place, God has also he had to work with Adam's family, and Adam could not be split into two, into good and evil. So he had his children, Cain and Abel, being split into two camps. Like one represented good and the other represented evil. But God warned Cain. He said, Cain, why has your countenance fallen? If you do well, would you not be accepted? So Cain disobeyed God, and he smote his brother, he killed his brother Abel. And God could not work in Adam's family, because for God to work, God to send the Messiah, send the Savior of mankind, God, there is a condition to be met. The condition is a foundation of faith and a foundation of substance. So the foundation of faith was done by Abel. It was successful, but the foundation of substance was not successful because Cain, could not unite with his brother Abel. So he smote his brother. Because he could have reversed the four fallen natures. Like if Cain could have seen things from God's viewpoint, and if he kept his proper position, and keeping his proper position, he could have had the proper order. God, then like Adam and Eve, and then the archangel, like God and Abel, then Cain, like the archangel, would have been in the bottom, and they instead of multiplying, they they could have multiplied goodness by uniting with each other. So therefore, it was a failure in God's providence, and God had to wait for another many years. Maybe say in the Bible says about 10 generations from Adam to Noah, and God had to find one righteous man, Adam and Noah. Noah was righteous, and Noah had to build a foundation of faith, in foundation of faith in the by building the ark, a big ship. And to build that ship, God told him that 40 days he's going to judge the earth. 40 days there's going to be a flood judgment. And he trusted God. He had absolute faith in God, and he built the ship, not on the seashore. He built the ship on a mountain. So that is the absolute faith that he had, and people would ridicule him, say, no, why are you doing this? Are you crazy? Why are you building a ship on the mountain? That's what God told him to build the ship, but he trusted God. And maybe people would have insulted, say, you're crazy, you build a ship on the mountain where if the flood comes, it'll be easy for the ship to take to be afloat. But no, Noah had absolute faith in God, and he built the ship for, I think, 120 years. He was building the ship. 120 biblical years that he built a ship. And what happened to Noah? Like exactly the flood came. Noah and his 3 sons and three daughter-in-laws entered the ark, and they took 2 by 2 of different animals. And what I'm going to talk is about responsibility, because Noah had that responsibility. Noah fulfilled that responsibility, fulfilled that foundation of faith. And then what happened was, Noah was a shipbuilder, but once the ark landed in Mount Ararat, Noah became a farmer. He built a vineyard, and he got drunk. And God had wiped out evil in the world. Evil was not there, but God had to check the heart of one person. That was Ham. Ham had to be Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Ham's heart had to be challenged, because when the both when Noah had built when Noah had worked on the vineyard, he became a farmer, and he grow grapes. And one day Noah became drunk by became drunk with the grapes that he had produced, and he lay naked in the tent. And what happened? Ham, instead of covering his father's nakedness, Cain repeated the fall. Right? He multiplied the sin. He multiplied it by calling his brothers, feeling ashamed of his brother, and they covered his father's nakedness, looking backwards. So what happened when Noah got up? Noah was drunk. When Noah got up, Noah cursed Ham. I said, your descendants will be slaves unto your brothers Canaan. This is what happened in God's point. Again, the foundation of faith was could not be established, because Noah established the foundation of faith. But if the son had united with Noah, not felt ashamed, then he would have had the foundation of faith, and he could have established the foundation of substance with his brothers Shem or Japheth. But it was a failure in a way. Like there's a horizontal foundation and a vertical foundation. So that was the responsibility was in Ham. Ham's heart was not pure, because he may have worked with Noah building the ark. But it was a gesture that again God's providence was again prolonged to a time of Abraham. It was prolonged the same time period, of 10 generations and 10 generations. And Abraham was righteous. God chose Abraham. Even God chose Abraham from his he had an evil father who was idol maker, who was Terah. Terah was idol maker. So from there, God chose Abraham, and then what happened to Abraham? Abraham made offering. He had two animals. It's a heifer and a goat, and then he had a dove and two pigeons. And he cut the big animals in two, but the small animals, the dove and the pigeons, he did not cut them too. And birds of prey got devoured on that offering. What I'll do is I'll put them on the description of the biblical quotations of where Ham felt naked of his father, and also Abraham's offering. And what happened in this offering? Because birds of prey, and then God could not work with Abraham, and it was deemed a failure as well. But because of the success of the foundation of faith laid by Abel and Noah, God could utilize Abraham once again to establish the foundation of it. And this time the foundation of faith was much more bigger. It's actually the foundation of faith is like an indemnity condition that you restore yourself by doing these things. But you obeyed God. So when you obey God, you fulfill your responsibility. So obeying is fulfilling your responsibility. So that is what is unique about the principle. You obey God. So Abraham obeyed God. and now he was going to make a bigger sacrifice. It was a sacrifice of his only son Isaac, which the story goes that Sarah was very old to go Isaac, but God said yes, you will have a child, and he believed, and Sarah believed. Actually, Sarah laughed at it. That's Isaac. They named Isaac. Isaac means laughter. So Isaac was the offering. But Isaac, he voluntarily went with his father. He knew what his father was going to do because he totally united with his father, and he did not struggle when his father called him to the altar to be sacrificed. And then God said, God got to through an angel. That again, an angel was there. Angel fulfilled that responsibility. God spoke through an angel, told, do not lay your hands on the lead. So an angel fulfilled that responsibility. So angels have responsibility. Again, it was an angel. So that way, the foundation of substance was done, and therefore, God could work with Abraham, and then because of Isaac's unity with Abraham, we can see that the foundation of faith was inherited by by Isaac, and then Isaac's two sons were Esau and Jacob. So when you think of Esau and um, yeah, Isaac's sons Esau and Jacob. When what happened was like like Isaac inherited the foundation of faith. Now the foundation of substance were going to arrive at going to be done with Jacob and Esau. But if Abraham's offering, the first offering was successful, if he had cut the birds in two, then I think the founder's substance, like Cain and Abel, the founder's substance would have been done by Ishmael and Isaac. But because it was again delayed, again that failure of responsibility, it was it was passed on to uh, to Isaac and Isaac's children, uh, Esau and Jacob. Now Jacob had to make certain conditions to to be able to get the blessing from his father Isaac, because Isaac because Jacob succeeded in building the foundation of faith that could establish the foundation for the Messiah. He actually, if um, that's why the Bible refers to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, because they established the foundation of faith. So if you look at the story of Jacob, Jacob, he stole the birthright. There's a way that he stole the birthright by of a lentil and porridge to his brother Esau, and made his brother angry, and he stole the porridge through the assistance of his mother Rebecca. So this way he fled to his uncle Laban, and here Uncle Laban, for 21 years he had to work. 21 years he had to work to uh, to get the blessing from Uncle Laban. 21 years he had to make that foundation of faith and come back. And Uncle Laban tricked him twice. one time with his wives. He promised to get to he promised to give him marriage to Rachel, but instead of Rachel, he gave him Leah, who was not so pretty. But Leah bore him at least 10 children, and Rachel only had the children were maybe two children, Benjamin and Joseph, were very providential figures in the Bible. So responsibility is very crucial to obey God, because in that case, because Jacob established the foundation of substance, which he united with his brother, because when they united, like Esau says, if he see the face of God in you, and so that way they united, and that the foundation of substance was the first time in history was established, and Jacob that Israel was blessed, because Israel means the one who strives and perseveres with God and man, and persevere God and man, and strive with God and man and overcome is called Israel. So it was established. So he established and he became Israel. So Jacob became Israel, and Israel multiplied to 12 tribes, and it became the nation, from a family to a nation, and and therefore it fulfilled its kind of responsibility. But the Messiah had to come on a national level, and therefore we can see the responsibility again being being not done by central figures. This point when the Messiah came, there was a person called John the Baptist. John the Baptist was the person who had to prepare the foundation for the coming, prepare the foundation for the Messiah. That's why he was going in the power, spirit and power of Elijah. He was to make that foundation so that people could accept Jesus. Jesus, Jesus had at the end. Jesus had to do that. Jesus had to Jesus had to make that foundation. So this is the tragedy of we can say the history of mankind, that the foundation of faith and the foundation of substance was not was not foundation of faith was done, but the foundation of substance was not so. But in the end, when Jesus' ministry, we can see that because Jesus fulfilled his responsibility by going the way of the cross. It was not predestined, but it was predetermined in the sense that because of the failure and the faithlessness of the people of Israel, Jesus had to go the way of the cross. And this is how the disciple later on, when he went to the way of the cross, he shed his blood. The disciples united with Jesus, and they united, and they sacrificed their lives for Jesus, and that's why Christianity was born. So it was very important that to understand these concepts. I mean, we also we also inherit the thing that happened in the providence of God. So I want to wind up here on this podcast this week. But so I like to talk because it's also about it's like insubordination, because it's like we fulfill our responsibility and we obey commandments, then we are not insubordinate. We're subordinate to God. But if we do not fulfill that, then become we have become insubordinate to God, and we go astray, and we suffer for that, and we have to get back by paying a price. Paying a price is only by indemnity. The biggest price that we can give as the advocate to us is Jesus and the Messiah and the second coming, who is Rev.Moon, and now is the heir and successor, who is not the Messiah. He is not the Messiah, but he is the lineage. the true tree of life that has come, that the Messiah came and established. Jesus should have established the tree of life if if people obeyed him and followed him, because they did not follow him, did not understand him, and even John the Baptist doubted him. Like I was always thinking, now what happened to the people that Jesus was baptizing and what John was baptizing? What's the purpose of John baptizing in one end of the Jordan and Jesus baptizing here in one end? I mean, Jesus' baptism can understand because John failed to understand, failed to unite with Jesus. That's why he said he must increase, I must decrease, but that's a very arrogant statement. He should have been subordinate to Jesus and been united, being Jesus' disciple, not to doubt Jesus. That's why Jesus said, no. He said, among those born of women, there is no one risen greater than John the Baptist. But he who is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. John was never in the kingdom of heaven. And then he goes on to say, until John, the kingdom of heaven suffered violence, and when people of violence take it by force. So this is crazy, people of violence take it by force. The kingdom of heaven has suffered violence. And all the prophets and all the law prophesied until John. So all the law and all the prophets in the New and the Old Testament were prophesying to the coming of Jesus. It never prophesied of his second coming. The prophet of the coming of Jesus, so that it could be fulfilled. The kingdom of heaven would have been realized. The kingdom of heaven on earth. That's why Jesus' prayer: "Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Not in the skies, not in said on earth, not in the spirit, on earth. So on earth is like what you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. What you lose on earth shall be lost in heaven. So this is earth is so important. So this is what I want to talk about: responsibility, fulfilling responsibility. When you fulfill responsibility, we progress, and then the kingdom will come. Christ will be the kingdom, will be the king. But Christ will not come back again, because life is a one-way spirit, one-way street. Like you say, like I think Ecclesiastes 12:7, it says like the spirit returns to God, and the dust returns to dust as it was. So our flesh, our bodies are dust, but our spirit will return to God one day if we fulfill our responsibility. So we have a portion of responsibility to fulfill. Like God gives 95% of His responsibility by sending the prophets, sending the Messiah, sending the divine principles, sending the Bible, and getting the Bible decoded by the divine principle that like acts as a compiler and makes a object code, and then that way the it is done. God's will is done. God is doing His portion of responsibility. His portion of responsibility. We have to do our 5% portion of responsibility. 5% responsibility, but 100% effort. In doing that, then we fulfill our condition, our part, and God's will is done. God's will is done, and we progress to many things that will happen in the future. So we live by love, and we are guided by the truth. So thank you for tuning in to my podcast. I may be sound ridiculous. Maybe I may have 2, 3, 4 people want to look at this podcast, but that's fine. Truth will set us free. Even Jesus said, "No, even the stones will testify to me." So this way also I can testify. The divine principle is the truth. The Christians don't want to touch it, don't want to hear it, but we have the truth. We have something substantial that was brought by Rev.Moon, who considered the second coming of Christ, and who set up a lineage and anointed his heir and successor. Yeah, he had a lineage, he had many children, but then did they fulfill their responsibility? No, I don't think they fulfilled their responsibility. But only his heir and successor. that is fulfilling his portion of responsibility, and we have to support him. And he's mentioned that when he gave the 8 textbooks, he said that we got to support his Aaron successor. So thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time, and I wish you all a happy week ahead of you. God bless you. God bless your families as well.